I've got to say that I've always had an interest in political economy. And when I was doing a philosophy degree, I came across a book by Jean-François Lyotard called The Postmodern Condition in 1984, in fact, and he wrote it in French in 1979. I corresponded with him for about 18 months, and he always wrote by hand in French, and asked him whether he would do a foreword for a book that I wrote in 1996 called Education, the Postmodern Condition, which he did. But he said, typically, this is far too complex, education far too complex for me, a mere philosopher, to comment on. And a typical French, dramatic rhetoric. But his work related philosophy to the consideration of late capitalism, really. And in particular, the way in which late capitalism was an economy which was based on concept of knowledge as the raw material. And I became very interested in questions. I mean, I'd done a lot of work on epistemology, so I was ripe for a kind of conversion here to continental theory, in particular the work of the Frankfurt School, but also French structuralism, post-structuralism. And, I think I've written 25 books around that kind of topic. Most recently, what's interesting to me is the research question, what form does education take within a so-called knowledge economy? And secondly, how adequate is the conception, the categories and concepts that structure the discourse about the knowledge economy? Because it's a very recent notion. In a sense, when we look back to OECD publication, The Knowledge-Based Economy, it came out in 1994. So we're talking really about a discourse that is only, a policy discourse that's only 20 years. And I think one of the things that I wanted to say in relation to this, and I think that philosophy is very helpful in clarifying this discourse, is the central repositioning of education as, if you like, the mainstay of the knowledge economy, especially higher education and in particular research. And to what extent is that a global model? To what extent does it permit variations, culturally speaking? And I wanted to say in particular that there were, if you explore the literature, many variations on this theme and many different conceptions, and that the current neoliberal World Bank and maybe OECD model is one among a number of different kinds of models, all of them future-oriented, with people like Daniel Bell, post-industrial society, and Drucker, the management theorist, a whole range of people here who've been writing about this for 50 years. And in particular, there are three modes of the knowledge economy that I was interested in. One is the concept of the learning economy, because if you talk about a knowledge economy, you want to talk about the actual processes that go on here. And so I was very interested in the work of Lundvall, the Scandinavian, and talking about a learning economy. Secondly, I was interested in a discourse, the second mode of knowledge economy, the creative economy. That is, that sector which is based on the exchange of symbolic goods in a whole range of fields that make use of the new Web 2 technologies and the internet as a platform, and involve a lot of the humanities disciplines actually. This sector is supposed to be growing at twice the rate of manufacturing, and so this is kind of very interesting sector to me. So I was involved in writing a book with a PhD student of mine, Daniel Oreja, called Education in the Creative Economy, and it involved a lot of the authors who have written on this discourse. The third area is what I call openness, around the concept of openness, I give this the characterization of open knowledge production. And I think this is the third mode of the knowledge economy. And I think really my research in this area is about examining the consequences for education of following through on those three modes of knowledge economy. What does it mean for us now? What does it mean in the transition? What can we expect? And what global forms will it take?